Both ReeFlex and Sandmarc have released 3x teleconverters for the iPhone telephoto lenses, and I've made videos covering both of them. So is one lens better than the other? These 3x lenses work on either the 100mm or the 200mm of the iPhone 17 Pro, or on the 120mm if you're using an iPhone 15 or 16 Pro. When using the lenses on a 17 Pro, you can get long 300mm to 600mm telephoto shots, which can look really great. But they're definitely not perfect, nor would I really expect them to be. As you can see in these examples, shooting in high contrast scenes, especially tree limbs against a bright sky or similar, you're often going to see chromatic aberration and fringing. But remember, this can and does happen with high-end traditional cameras and lenses too. Another thing we can see is atmospheric distortion, meaning heat shimmer, humidity, dust, or even air turbulence. The lens often gets blamed when the real culprit is simply the air between the camera and the subject. And at 600mm, even a cool day can show atmospheric softness over long distances. Now we'll get geeky and check out a chart I shot. And by the way, this is not a scientific test. All right, I'm using the 17 Pro Max. I'm on the 100mm built-in lens, 100mm equivalent, I should say. It's the 4x tele, and I'm shooting the focus chart. And I can't fill the screen right now, but I am seeing the red peaking. So when I pop in with the 200mm, which I'll do right now I can fill the screen a little bit more. But interestingly, and I hadn't noticed this before, I'm using the Blackmagic camera app, I'm not seeing peaking anymore. And I can't tell if that's completely in focus. I am about 18 to 20 feet away from the focus chart. So it should be plenty of distance to keep focus. But ultimately I'm doing this as a baseline because here in a moment, I will switch this out and put the 3x teleconverters on. All right, now I haven't touched the camera. I did put the 72mm 3x telephoto on from Sandmarc, and you're seeing that shot, and I'm on the 100mm equivalent on the iPhone. And so that's the 4x tele. And so to do the math, it's a 3x tele from Sandmarc on the 100mm. So we are getting a 300mm shot here. And I am seeing focus peaking, which is good. So technically that means it should be in focus. And again, I'm about 18 or so feet away from the chart. All right, now I've got the 72mm, again, the 3x teleconverter from Sandmarc on the 200mm iPhone, which is the 8x. And so now I've got a 600mm equivalent shot. And to my eye on the back of the screen right here, it looks like it's in focus, but I'm not getting focus peaking. And I think that might be a problem just in the 200mm lens. It's not optical, it's Apple doing its magic to extend the 400mm, the Fusion lens. It's above my pay grade. I don't know exactly how it works, but I do know that I'm not seeing focus peaking, but it does look sharp or relatively sharp on the back of the screen. Now I'm getting a shadow across my chart right now, but that doesn't affect anything other than the exposure. Okay, now I'm using the ReeFlex Ultra Telephoto, and it is their 3x teleconverter version for the iPhone telephoto. And I'm on the 100mm, again, the 17 Pro Max. And so with their converter, I'm now at a 300mm equivalent. And I am seeing focus peaking. Although it is a little bit lighter, it seems like it was a little bit sharper with the Sandmarc. And I am still getting a little slash of sun on the chart, but I have to shoot outside because I don't have a studio large enough for the focal distance you need. You need to be at least 15 feet away, and again, I'm about 18 feet or so right now. Now we'll pop into the 200mm. So I got the exposure adjusted, and that is now the 200mm using the ReeFlex 3x teleconverter. And just like with the Sandmarc, I have lost focus peaking, but to my eye out here, it looks like it's in focus. However, it does look a little bit soft to my eye, looking at it on the back of the iPhone screen right now. But I'll do some more critical analysis in post. But before I can go compare the two, I got to shoot the ReeFlex again. Okay, take two on the ReeFlex. This is the 100mm. The other shot, the right side of the frame was a little bit soft. I don't know why. Everything else was aligned properly. So I'm just trying it again. And the shot will have changed a little bit because I'd already struck everything and I reset it back up now. And then the lighting conditions are a little bit different. But in saying that, this is a 100mm, so 300mm equivalent. using the 3x reflex lens. And now I'll pop into the 8x. And now the 8x looked fine previously. So I don't know what the difference was, and this may be the same, we'll see. That's why I'm shooting this again. This is the 200mm iPhone with the reflex 3x, and so that is a 600mm equivalent. Now I'll go compare them. About to get nerdy here. All right, here's the Sandmarc on the 100mm. So it's a 300mm look. And this is take one, the first one I did of reflex, same shot. One thing you might notice is they jump a little bit and the color shifts a little bit too. So I've noted before that the Sandmarc is a little bit warmer than the reflex. That's on their 2x teleconverters. Looks to be the same thing on the 3x. The other thing is the center point of the lens is a little bit different on each one. That's why you're seeing it jump from one to the other. And then here is take two. For whatever reason, on the reflex, the first one I did, the right side kind of smeared. I'm using a reflex case. It was put on just like I always do. It didn't work great. So I did a take two. And take two looked much better. Although the right edge is still slightly blurry. I'm not sure why. And I never even noticed it. And that's an important point to mention. Often when you're pixel peeping, you'll see stuff that you don't see in the real world. And so now here are the shots side by side. This is the right edge. That way I can show the reflex, how the far right edge is kind of soft and the Sandmarc is not soft. But the middle of each looks pretty much exactly the same. I'd actually say the reflex looks a little bit sharper to my eye. But again, the reflex has that right edge. And so here is the center of it, just to show that. And again, the center looks really good on both, I think. The reflex might have just a very slight edge in my opinion, looking at these at 150%. Now we'll look at the 600mm. This is the Sandmarc. And then here is the reflex. And this is again, take one of the reflex. And then here's take two. The lighting is a lot different on take two, and I think it looks pretty good. They both look pretty good. And we'll look at that right now side by side. Now I've scaled these back on the screen so you can see the entire chart of each one side by side. And I don't see a whole lot wrong with either one of these. They both look good, which is interesting because in the real world, I did notice softness on a bunch of the shots, especially on the Sandmarc lens. But here on the chart, I'm not seeing really much softness or chromatic aberration. They both are holding really, really well. Now here it is full screen, and when you go full screen, I would almost say the Sandmarc edges out the reflex just a little bit on the sharpness side. Again, we're really pixel peeping here, but if you're trying to read the text, you can read the text just a little bit better with the Sandmarc than with the reflex. And again, the images hold really pretty well across the board, especially for having a 3x teleconverter on an iPhone lens. I'm impressed with both overall. Now I'll show a couple more real world comparisons and then we'll wrap it up. And I said real world, and these are more extreme real world, but I'm trying to show the chromatic aberration and how they compare. The Sandmarc actually looks pretty good right here. But then here's the exact same shot with the reflex, and you can definitely see the chromatic aberration. And it leans towards magenta. Now again, I'm doing this on purpose. This is kind of extreme, but I just wanted to show it. And here it is side by side. So in this particular test, Sandmarc definitely controls the chromatic aberration better. Here's another one, much more extreme, and this is Sandmarc, and there's a ton of chromatic aberration. And Sandmarc's chromatic aberration leans yellow or maybe blue. And now here is the reflex, and that shot really changed a lot, and I did not move the camera. But again, looking at the chromatic aberration, it goes magenta, and it's pretty extreme in these examples. And high contrast, bright sky, tree limbs are notoriously bad, especially when stuff goes out of focus. And again, the framing of the shots is the same, but they look so different because of the center alignment. All right, and now a more normal shot, just shooting a tree branch against a normal sky. And I don't see any chromatic aberration here, and that's on the Sandmarc. And then the same goes here for the reflex. Looks good. The sun was coming in and out, and so the look is a little bit different. But otherwise, these shots are nice and clean. So I just wanted to show you that the chromatic aberration is well controlled, but when you are in those tougher shooting situations, you will see it. And now one final shot here, Sandmarc first, and I'm 20 feet away, but this image is slightly soft, and I'm not sure why, because that is plenty of distance for the minimum focus. But when I go to the ReeFlex, it looks great. This is the 300mm, so the iPhone 100mm. It is spot on. And I really like this shot a lot. I used autofocus here in the Blackmagic camera app, but it's definitely possible that the focus was slightly missed. However, again, it looks great on the ReeFlex. And so in this comparison, the ReeFlex definitely wins. So is there an overall winner? For me overall, I think the ReeFlex does slightly edge out the Sandmarc. Although if you look at the chart, the Sandmarc looks better in many respects, and the Sandmarc does control the chromatic aberration better, at least in my testing. But the overall image, I think, just has a better look and feel with the ReeFlex, and more times than not, it seems like it's a little bit sharper, which again is interesting because of the chart. And on the chart, the Sandmarc looked better. They both have 17mm mounts. They're both from good brands, and so in a lot of ways it can become a subjective call. I will say that the ReeFlex lens is big, it's heavy, but that can work to your advantage depending on what you're doing, especially for photography, because you can actually hold on to the lens to shoot. But the Sandmarc is more portable, it's much lighter weight, and it matches better to its smaller predecessor, the 48mm or the 2x. The 2x ReeFlex lens, called the Super Telephoto, is night and day smaller to the 3x Ultra Telephoto. So really that might be a deciding factor for many. And I actually really like those 2x teleconverters, by the way. I use those all the time. But the 3x is really nice to have, especially if you shoot documentary, sports, wildlife, and that's for video or photography. All the iPhone color grading in this episode was done using my Apple Log LUTs. I've got everyday LUTs, film look LUTs, now I also have film grain available too. But what do you think? Have you bought one of these lenses yet? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.